The Russian government has announced it. I mean, they've officially announced it. This isn't like some rumor from some Russian military blogger. This isn't me saying it. This isn't Ukraine saying it. This is Shoigu, the Russian defense minister, saying it on camera. On camera. It is time to talk about this insane update we've got from Ukraine. And I know it's a bit shocking news, but we all kind of saw the writing on the wall for a while. I have talked about very frequently on this channel about the writing on the wall. I talked about it when I was still in Ukraine, and I've talked about it since I've come back to the United States, about how the Russian position in Kherson is untenable, it is unsustainable, it is indefensible. They can hold out, they can make it a hard time to take the city of Kherson. But ever since the Kerch Bridge explosion, on top of the fact that other bridges across the Dnieper have been targeted heavily, on top of the fact that ammo depots have blown up left and right, on top of the fact that we get report after report of surrenders due to a lack of supply, and weapons just breaking down and people not being rotated out, having extremely long deployments in areas where they need to be relieved. Due to all these reports of logistical failures on the most basic of levels, people saw the Russian positions past the Dnieper River. You know, the city of Kherson being the most notable. It is the second largest city Russia has captured since the start of the war. They captured it on March 2nd, right at the start of the war. It looks like they're going to withdraw across the Dnieper River and abandon the city of Kherson. What are the most important thing they've captured this entire war? They captured Kherson on March 2nd. If this withdrawal goes through and Ukraine retakes the city of Kherson, Ukraine will be taking back a city that was captured on March 2nd, the second largest city that Russia has captured in this war. Now, I see a question in Twitch chat, and I'm going to respond to it immediately because I've gotten this question a few times. Are they withdrawing from the city of Kherson or all of the Kherson Oblast? So to be clear, the reports are coming in saying that Russia, according to Russia, Russia's doing this according to them. Maybe it's a fake out. Maybe it's some psychological warfare. I mean, it would make sense for them to withdraw because it just makes strategic sense because, again, the positions are untenable and they don't want tens of thousands of their own men to freeze to death across the Dnieper River without proper supplies. But it's going to be every bit of the Kherson Oblast across the Dnieper River. So the city of Kherson, for example. And so this kind of, like, we talked about this before on the channel, that we kind of saw this coming because of how untenable the position was. And let me just tell you, I was there for the start of this offensive. I was in the city of Mykolaiv. And for those of you who maybe are a little bit less familiar with Ukraine's geography, the city of Mykolaiv is right here. And I helped deliver aid across here. And I even filmed over here, right? And I was over here when the Kherson counteroffensive was launched. And I could tell when I was there that this was a serious attempt to take Kherson. I know after the Kharkiv counteroffensive that many people saw it as just a diversion, but I never thought it was just a diversion because I felt the pressure. I saw the pressure, and to be quite frank, from talking from the people who are in the know, from my people who also, you know, work in military strategy or understand this stuff much better than I do, they seemed to agree with the fact that it was an untenable position and that Ukraine seemed to be making a real attempt at it, and they're grinding them down. But that was the difference between the Kharkiv Oblast counteroffensive and this counteroffensive. Is this counteroffensive was a grinding down, a slow grinding down of Russian morale, Russian logistics, Russian supplies, and Russian lives. And it seems the grind has completed, with Russia not wanting to have many people more, many more people grinded, so to speak. So, I was there at the start, and I remember being woken up in the middle of the night because of how strong the bombardment was. And the thing I noticed, even though I had shells fall within 200 feet of me that day, we had a lot of really close calls, you know, strikes on the Mykolaiv city center, war crimes that Russia was committing that we got caught up in. The majority of the explosions I heard were on the Russian positions. They were from the directions of the Russians. I think the majority of the stuff being fired was being fired at Russia. I remember at one period, I did a 30-second count. A 30-second count near the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant across the Dnieper River. I did this count. And I counted 50 explosions in 30 seconds. This was a very serious counteroffensive. Very serious counteroffensive. And now we're seeing it reap what it sowed. And the Russian government has announced it. I mean, they've officially announced it. This isn't like some rumor from some Russian military blogger. This isn't me saying it. This isn't Ukraine saying it. This is Shoigu, the Russian defense minister, saying it on camera. On camera. So unless this is a Russian operation to like trick the Ukrainians and they're going to say, ha, it was all a big scheme, even though we've seen an escalation in looting in the past few days, we've seen Russia lower the flag on administrative buildings to try to take away from the massive victory that would be the recapture of Kherson, try to take away from some of the camera moments that could happen. It seems to be that a withdrawal is happening. And there's a lot. It's hard to talk about this because, like, there were so many people, and I want to just gloat. I want to gloat a little bit, and I shouldn't because it's bad practice. But there were so many Russian military bloggers and Russian Twitter supporters, like Zoka. Zoka is a kind of a Twitter account, big pro-Russia Twitter account, who were bragging for months that Kherson was going to hold. That people had talked about this Kherson counteroffensive, but where is it? Where is it? There is no withdrawal. I would remember every single tweet I would make for a bit. There was some reply people who would every single time say, "What about Kherson? What about Kherson? Oh, Dylan, you said Kherson was gonna be a withdrawal. They were gonna, it was gonna fall." And so I do want to gloat slightly that all these people were terribly wrong, and the military strategists and the people who, are don't just consume Russian state media propaganda ended up being right. And Zoka, as this tweet demonstrates, where he says, all kinds of rumors circulating. If they really withdraw from Kherson, I will switch to NAFO side. He only said this like 6 days ago. He now has to make a NAFO account. So congratulations. Welcome to NAFO. Here is some footage of ferry crossings that are going on across, the Dnieper River as they're trying to get Russian soldiers out, trying to get any administrators out, trying to get collaborators out. As you can see right there, there's the Z on the car. They're trying to get collaborators out as well. The collaborators are scared particularly because, if they get captured, they're going to prison and they will be treated as criminals. We're getting 10, 20, 30 years for collaboration with the Russian army. They're going to see them as people who worked with those who murdered their families. I mean, the thing that's going to happen is all the people who, are loyal to Ukraine, the vast majority of the people in Kherson, are going to immediately tell the Ukrainian military, like, hey, here are the people who betrayed us, who reported us, put us on kill lists, helped torture us, helped kidnap our families, and helped give up the city. Here are the people, if you need to go get them, and we will help you capture them. And if they get captured, they're never seeing the outside of a prison cell, at the very least, ever again. At the very least. And so, they're rushing. They're rushing to get out, man. They do not want to be in Kherson. There is the damage on the bridge. That's how Russian logistics are getting damaged, man. HIMARS is doing damage like that. Also, it should be noted, this is unrelated necessarily to, like, strategic gain here, strategic gain there, and, like, city falling after city, or village falling after village. But the Russian-appointed deputy head of the Kherson Oblast removed his safety belt, his driver's safety belt from his car. He removed it, I don't know, a month ago, something like that. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing up the fact that he did this is because the deputy head of the Kherson Oblast died in a car crash today, or yesterday, he died in a car crash. Now, that's what's being reported. Now, usually, I would not trust Russian state media, but after seeing this picture, it does make me trust it a little bit more. But it is kind of strange that he dies immediately as Kherson withdrawal is being carried out, and they're ditching Kherson. Immediately as it happens, he just so happens to die. I mean, coincidences happen, but it is suspicious. It is suspicious, at the very least. Now, personally, either route works for me. He was not safe and he crashed because he removed his safety belt and he died. That's a kind of strange ending for this collaborator. Or he died because, you know, you trusted an untrustworthy ally, the Russian military, and they turned on you, they blamed you for what happened, or you're the fall guy or whatever happened, or they wanted to make sure you didn't switch sides or whatever was going to happen, and now you're gone. Either way, collaboration doesn't pay. I do also want to say that the last thing that he talked about before dying was, and I quote, "The collective Biden is ending his magic. Soon, the Ukro-Nazis will run out of funding due to full fiasco of the Democrats in the U.S. election." He allegedly died in a car crash just hours later. The last thing he said on camera was an attack on Biden's election performance in the upcoming midterms. The midterms had just happened. So not only did he die, but his last wish was immediately denied by the Democrats by holding the Senate and performing relatively well in the House. So sucks for Russian collaborators in Kherson. The withdrawal seems to be, and who knows? Maybe Biden punished him for his hubris of daring to speak out against his election chances. Obviously, it's all in the plan. Patriots are in control, chat. No more malarkey. Wagner in Gray Zone are not, they're not happy. Even though, of course, we're happy because we want them to leave. We want them to leave so the war can be over and Ukraine can be free. Gray Zone's not happy. They see this as a humiliation. People need a finger to point somewhere. Of course, Shoigu is the guy I'm predicting that's going to be the fall guy for this. That the person that everybody's going to point their finger at, and they're allowed to point their finger at because Shoigu has been the punching bag so far for Russian military bloggers that they haven't got punished for. And I think Putin is keeping Shoigu, a close Putin ally, at kind of like arm's length and allowing him to get beaten up so the criticism isn't directed at him. So I think Shoigu might take the fall on this. And when I say take the fall on this, I mean take the blame, not fall out a window, which is something that Russian oligarchs and Russian politicians seems to be doing a lot of these days. But who knows, maybe Shoigu will end up falling out a window or getting in a car crash. Anyway, let's read what Gray Zone has to say because they're not very happy. For at least the next 2 days, we will have to read, listen, and watch how betrayal and treason around Kherson will be justified and softened, declaring that nothing could be done. It could, but not in the last days, and not later than June, but nothing was done. It's so weird to have Wagner, popping off like this, or Wagner affiliated groups popping off like this for this war of denazification when Wagner was founded by a neo-Nazi. That ever-present fact just always just slams in the side of my head anytime I read anything surrounding Wagner. They will say that the enemy, in spite of the losses he's taking, which number in the 1,000, is ready to conquer Kherson at any cost. Maybe something else, like this is all to get more help from the West. By the way, yes, they will not forget about the West in one more way. They will definitely not pass by it, and they will not forget to say that we are at war with all of NATO. True. I'm sorry. They're not even fighting the majority of NATO's budget. They're actually fighting a very small, almost minuscule portion of NATO's budget overall. They can't beat Ukraine. If they were to get in a war with all of NATO, Russia just couldn't win. It's either the whole world blows up or Russia loses. That's the only two outcomes. There's no outcome of Russia wins a war with NATO. It's just not possible. Which is part of the reason why I'm not as much of a doomerist as everybody else about nuclear weapons, because if they can't win a war, why would they start one? Anyway, let's continue. True. I didn't know that NATO had 20 aircraft, 150 tanks, 200 armored personnel carriers, 50 MLRS, and 2
Burns is an
carts.
immoral,
morally corrupt, bankrupt man. Hey, Marcus Lecter, thank you so much for the tier 1. I appreciate it. And all these sort of little things, that's exactly how much the West gave our enemy. Approximately the same amount as we left the enemy retreating from Kiev and Kharkiv regions. Oh, yes, that's something I haven't mentioned yet. There is going to be so many goodies left for the Ukrainian military. So many tanks, so many armored personnel carriers, so many trucks, so much stuff is going to be left by. And if they get overwhelmed enough, they might be even leaving large portions of ammunition, artillery guns, who knows the type of stuff that they might be leaving behind. The thing is, how are they going to transport that stuff? They either have to get it across by ferry, or they have to take a bridge. But the problem is the bridges are defunct, definitely for heavy equipment. They're okay for like foot travel, like the average. So if they need to get all the population across the bridge, they can do that, but they can't with vehicles. So they're going to have to either get it across the ferry, which takes forever, and the longer they take, the more soldiers they lose, or just abandon it and give the Ukrainians free loot. That's what they ended up doing in Kharkiv. And in Kharkiv, there wasn't even a massive river like the Dnieper River to cross in that withdrawal. My goodness. At the same time, the UAVs are being supplied to us by Iran, artillery shells from North Korea. It would seem that countries that have been under sanctions for decades, where the Human Development Index is not the highest, suddenly help the second army of the world. Maybe over there they just shoot those stealing every penny, not to mention trading national lands. Wow, what a condemnation. They called this a treason around Kherson. They're calling what Shoigu announced, the withdrawal, a treason against Russia. But remember, even though they're directing this criticism towards Shoigu, and they're not directing any of it towards Putin, there's no way this couldn't have happened without Putin's approval. It's impossible. It's politically impossible in Russia right now. Meaning, if you bring your logic to its natural conclusion, it was Putin who allowed treason to occur under Wagner's own thinking. Wagner and Gray Zone. My goodness, isn't that interesting? Man, but the copium, it won't make you see these things, will it? It'll make you ignore these things. But don't worry. Russia has a solution. Razman Kadyrov, leader of the Chechen Republic, traitor to the Chechen rebellion, endorses the withdrawal. Let's listen to what he has to say. Let's listen to the Russian state media talking points directly from one of its little warlords, one of its little chieftains, its little prince dictators. I fully agree with the opinion on Servinskin's decision. He's saying the leader of Wagner. I don't know how to pronounce his name, though. We very actively noted that Servinskin saved thousands of soldiers who were in actual encirclement. After weighing all the pros and cons, the general made it difficult. We'll just call him General Butcher, by the way, because he's a butcher from Syria. General Butcher made a difficult but right choice between senseless sacrifice for the sake of loud statements and saving priceless lives of soldiers. Kherson is a very difficult area without the possibility of a stable, regular supply of ammunition and the formation of a strong, reliable rear. This is true. Why was this not done from the first days of the special operation? This is another question. But in this different situation, the general acted wisely and farsightedly. They don't have an answer for it. Basically, why didn't we withdraw sooner to save more lives? There is no answer for it. It was all political. It was all political and just denial. Because again, the Russian position has yet to realign with reality. He evacuated the civilian population and ordered a regrouping. So there is no need to talk about the surrender of Kherson. Surrender is when it's together with the fighters. And the general, Butcher, protects the soldier and takes a more advantageous strategic position. Yo, he's literally, okay, he's unironically saying this isn't a surrender, this is a strategic withdrawal. This is what he's trying to say. But the thing is, if you strategically withdraw from a city you are surrendering the city, no matter how you want to frame it. I'm sorry. Everyone knew from the very first days of the special operation that Kherson was a difficult combat territory. Actually, no. You guys didn't talk about that at all. Not everyone knew that. That's not true whatsoever. You guys thought the war was going to be over very quickly. You thought we're going to take Kherson, then we're going to take Kiev and Riga, then we're going to take Mykolaiv. You guys thought you were going to bulldoze everything. So no, not everyone knew, because if everyone knew, Russia probably wouldn't have invaded in the first place. The soldiers of my units also reported that it was very difficult to fight in this area. Yes, it can be held. It is possible to organize at least some supply of ammunition, but the cost will be numerous human lives, and this forecast does not suit us. It can't be held. It can't be held. It will cost them tons of lives, and it would be costly for them, but they also can't hold it. Therefore, I believe that the butcher acted like a real military general, not afraid of criticism. He's responsible for the people. He sees better. Thank you for taking care of our guys, and we will not stop hitting the enemy, and we will not get tired. My goodness. Russia's about to withdraw from more and more land, and the state government is preparing the argument, but let me just say, Russian military bloggers did not react positively to this. The Russian public don't seem to be generally happy about this outcome. And even Russian state TV is starting to chomp at the bit. We don't have enough time today to get into the specific Russian TV segments. I think maybe we will on another day, because I also want to cover instances of Russian looting, because with a withdrawal that Russia does, something that they engage, they withdraw quite a lot in this war. While they withdraw, Russia is very famous for its looting, just grabbing whatever it can and running away with it, stealing people's worldly belongings because they're criminals. Well, in Kherson, they decided to steal a children's train. This is a children's train that Russian soldiers stole and looted and are taking across, or at least attempting to take across, the river. Can I just say, while this is unbelievably pathetic, you need to understand Russia needs every train they can get to fix their logistical situation. This will make up like at least a third of Russia's logistical capability moving forward deeper into the war. I will also say one last thing, and I got like a bunch of videos we could go through, but I think we're gonna do this one. Why do you think the mobilization didn't save Kherson, guys? Just put an answer in your head. Why didn't mobilization save Kherson? You know, you could. I have a few answers for me. I would say that adding more soldiers across, putting more bodies across the river doesn't fix the logistical issues. It doesn't fix the morale issue that much, if at any. I mean, some people can rotate out, I guess. It doesn't give them better weapons. They're using more and more T-62s, like these mid-Cold War era tanks. It doesn't fix a lot of their problems. And that's why I don't think mobilization saved Kherson. But I wanted to hit particularly on the issue of morale in the Russian army. You can, it's generally not a good idea to push an army to fight if the people don't really want to fight. You can do your best, but if you do too much, eventually the will of the fight will break. And that's something we're really watching happen in real time. And here's just one example of it. This is a scene of immobilized soldiers from Russia openly telling their commander to basically buzz off, I'll just say that, shouting at him for arriving drunk, demanding to know why OMON security troops have arrived, and finally calling him the F-slur. He's a flavor of has a flavor of 1917 mutiny about it. Let's watch. I'll do my best to quote-unquote translate, aka read the subtitles, okay? To close out this segment. Fuck off from here. Just repeated. Major, are you with us? We need answers. Where are our answers? Hey, King Kubasnev. Where did all these special police troops come from? Fuck off from here. Shame, shame, shame. Say sorry. Shut up. Be quiet. Guys, quiet. All of you, read the schedule. Speak louder. Speak louder. Look. We want you to answer the questions, not other people. I will answer. Answer our questions. Answer us about calling us pigs. You made this mess. You made this rush. It's all your fault. Fucking general? Yeah, fucking general, answer. Do you know where they're sending us? Give us answers. General, your arse will be in the warm. General. Why you call us this way? Hey, it wasn't like this, wasn't it? Okay, basically, they tell this guy off. He's incredibly wasted. They end it by calling him the F slur a bunch of times, and he just walks away. They insult him. He's drunk. And let me just say, this doesn't inspire confidence in the army when you just saw half your friends die. You come home to the commander to get some answers about these new soldiers that are here, and he's drunk. Can't even answer you because he's wasted, and he just walks away after you call him the F slur. Look, I think the withdrawal from Kherson could be a sign of things to come. The Russian army seems to be falling apart at the seams, with internal divisions getting wider between the Russian military establishment, like Minister Shoigu, and the Wagner group, and military contractors, and you know, the soldiers, the conscripts who don't want to obviously be there. They don't want to be there whatsoever. These ripples in society are getting bigger as their logistical and economic situation is getting worse, and they just have worse and worse weapons to work with, and less training for soldiers. They're in a downward spiral in the quality of their army, and it can go nowhere but downward. The only thing that Russia is benefiting from right now is they do have more manpower, even if that manpower is lesser of quality due to the mobilization, and the Iranian drones that they have been supplied, which they have not really used to great strategic or tactical effect whatsoever, but they have used to terrorize the Ukrainian population. Not that I think they will submit. I think their will is generally strong on this issue, definitely after talking to so many of them. Kherson is falling, the Russians are cracking, and the Ukrainians are winning. It's good news for now. Let's hope the Ukrainians can keep it up, and let's hope that this withdrawal is for serious, because it hasn't happened yet. The Russians could always turn around and say, Lamau JK. Let's see this withdrawal through and see another major city liberated by the Ukrainian military.